There are lots of urban legends in Jerusalem. This one might be the most important.
Jerusalem is far more than a mere coordinate on a map. It is the physical heartbeat of human history, the intersection of three global faiths, and the epicenter of ancient prophecy. For centuries, amidst the rise and fall of empires and the relentless flow of time, one entity has stood as a silent, immovable sentinel, the Golden Gate. This gate, also known as the Gate of Mercy, has been sealed with massive, unyielding stone blocks for over 500 years. However, a startling event has recently occurred that has left even the most hardened skeptics in a state of disbelief. For the first time in living memory, the ancient stones of the Golden Gate are showing signs of movement. This is not a shift caused by human hands, nor is it the result of industrial machinery. It appears to be an internal awakening from within the thousand-year-old limestone. This event forces a question upon millions. Are we witnessing the final moments before a great prophecy is fulfilled? Before we continue, hit like to help Jesus' miracles to this message reach others who need to hear it. To understand the gravity of this moment, we must look back at the eastern wall of the Temple Mount. The Golden Gate is the oldest and most sacred of all the portals leading into Jerusalem. With its legendary double-arched structure, it stands directly opposite the Mount of Olives, the path that ancient texts claim is reserved for the divine. In 1541, the Ottoman Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent ordered the gate to be completely sealed with heavy masonry. Furthermore, a cemetery was established directly in front of it. This was a calculated move to prevent the arrival of the Messiah, as foretold in Jewish and Christian prophecies. For over 5 centuries, the gate has existed under the siege of tombs and the cold seal of stone. It has survived massive earthquakes and the erosion of time without moving a single inch. Its stillness was considered a constant of history until now. Suleiman's masonry is finally yielding to a higher power. What is truly happening behind these layers of ancient dust? If this is worth to you, consider supporting by liking the video and subscribing so we can move on this channel. The supernatural phenomenon. When stone refuses to stay still, Jerusalem stands as a city defined by its literal and spiritual foundations, a place where the physical environment has long been considered an immutable witness to history. However, recent reports emerging from the heart of the Holy City describe a phenomenon that fundamentally defies conventional physics and challenges the very definition of structural stability. At the historic site of the Golden Gate, or the Gate of Mercy, monolithic stones that have remained seated for centuries are beginning to exhibit a series of strange, unexplained fractures and highly visible signs of shifting. These are not the typical cracks of age or environmental wear, but rather a sudden and profound movement of the city's oldest and densest stone foundations, areas that have previously endured sieges, earthquakes, and centuries of structural load without comparable failure. In response to these anomalies, teams of geological engineers and seismic experts have been summoned to the site to provide a mechanical explanation. Unlike standard urban subsidence caused by modern infrastructure leaks or surface stress, these collapses appear selective and localized. Most disturbingly, the stone layers in several locations show signs of inward compression rather than outward fracture. It is as if the ground is not merely wearing out, but rather giving way from within, suggesting that a hidden support or foundational pressure has been removed or redistributed. Experts find no evidence of mechanical interference, regional tectonic activity, or tremors strong enough to alter such a specific and historically reinforced structure. The sensory experience for those at the site adds another layer of the supernatural to this geological crisis. Witnesses, including pilgrims and clerics who have prayed at the wall for decades, recount hearing deep, resonant sounds emanating from far beneath the sacred ground. These are not the sharp booms of construction or the mechanical hum of a modern city, but prolonged, metallic groans and thunder-like vibrations felt through the very soles of their feet. Many describe the sound as resembling the distant, haunting echo of a shofar, or a great trumpet blast rising from the ancient dust. Beyond the sound, there is a palpable sense of an energy source, or an immense, localized pressure straining within the gate's sealed facade. Worshippers and observers describe a heavy, charged atmosphere, a stillness so complete it feels imposed rather than natural, as if an entity or a divine intent is attempting to break through the man-made seals. This experience has provoked a sense of gravity rather than hysteria, as individuals become acutely aware of their inner state in the presence of this awakening. When stones that were considered the most stable in the region begin to walk, and centuries-old seals begin to buckle, we can no longer view this through the lens of a mere technical anomaly. The shifting of the stone is merely the outer shell of a vast spiritual upheaval occurring at the very epicenter of human prophecy. It represents a moment where history feels less like a repetition and more like an acceleration, as the boundary between the physical and the spiritual grows thin. Stay with us as we uncover the true meaning of this awakening. For when the earth itself begins to speak through its fractures, it is a signal that a sequence of events has already been set in motion that no human monument can shield. The convergence of prophecies. The physical shifting of the Golden Gate is currently triggering a powerful and profound chain of prophetic associations that resonate deeply across major global faiths. These occurrences are signaling what many observers believe to be a pivotal and irreversible transition in the spiritual timeline of humanity. For the Jewish people, the sudden awakening and structural instability of this specific ancient portal is viewed as a definitive sign of sacred permanence being challenged. It is seen as a harbinger that the Messiah is approaching the gate to bring about a long-awaited era of redemption and the final restoration of the nation of Israel. In the Christian tradition, this portal remains inextricably linked to the sacred promise of the second coming of Jesus Christ. It is revered not only as the historical gate through which he entered the city in humility on Palm Sunday, but also as the exact same threshold through which he is prophesied to return in majesty, to judge the world and establish his eternal, millennial kingdom. We are currently witnessing what can only be described as a convergence of signals that many scholars and watchers find impossible to ignore as mere coincidence. This pattern includes the documented arrival of the red heifers, which fulfill an essential requirement for ancient purification rites, and the intensifying preparations for the Third Temple. Now, the literal and unexplained stirring of a gate that has remained sealed by heavy Ottoman masonry for nearly 5 centuries adds a physical dimension to these ancient expectations. This sudden activity directly confronts the ancient words of the prophet Ezekiel, who recorded the divine decree, "This gate shall be shut, it shall not be opened, because the Lord, the God of Israel, has entered by it." The fact that this reinforced structure, which has survived centuries of sieges and seismic stress, is now showing signs of shifting or opening without any human intervention or mechanical explanation, suggests to many that the times of the Gentiles may be drawing to an abrupt and dramatic close. This suggests the world is moving to make way for a new, celestial order, where presence replaces mere explanation. Are we truly living in the final chapters of human history? The unexplainable events unfolding behind the scenes in Jerusalem, a city that has always carried more spiritual weight than the rest of the world combined, may finally hold the definitive answer for a watching generation. From the mysterious lights above the Mount of Olives to the fire that refuses to burn in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, the atmosphere over the city is no longer a passive backdrop, but an active participant in an unfolding revelation. As the very foundations of the world shift, and the ground beneath Jerusalem gives way as if a hidden support has been removed, the question is no longer whether something monumental is happening. The true question is whether we are paying attention, and if we are spiritually prepared for what comes next. On-site experience, Jerusalem in a fever. The atmosphere in Jerusalem today is charged with an unprecedented sense of urgency and solemnity that transcends ordinary religious devotion. Archaeologists, high-ranking clerics, and thousands of the faithful are flocking to the eastern wall and the sacred perimeter of the city. Every eye is fixed on the hairline fractures and shifting blocks appearing on the Golden Gate, a structure that has stood as a symbol of sacred permanence for centuries. Jerusalem is no longer just an ancient city. It has transformed into a global, prophetic observatory, where the physical and spiritual realms seem to be colliding. Observers have described a heavy, charged atmosphere, where the air itself feels like an active participant in the unfolding events. Witnesses report a low-frequency hum and an oppressive stillness that presses inward, provoking gravity rather than hysteria. Some individuals feel compelled to lower their heads in reverence, while others weep without being able to explain why, overwhelmed by a sense that something irreversible has occurred. Equally startling is the eerie silence from mainstream media outlets and the cautious, delayed language used by official sources. Why is an event of this magnitude not being broadcast on every channel? Perhaps authorities fear a total disruption of social order, or they are simply paralyzed by a phenomenon that conventional science struggles to classify. The truth is currently being held behind security cordons and in closed-door meetings as officials struggle with inward compressing stones and unexplainable atmospheric shifts that do not follow known rhythms. However, the vibration of the stones and the groans rising from beneath the city cannot be hidden forever. The silence of the world only makes the voice of the stones echo louder, serving as a quiet but undeniable testimony that history is awakening. The physical world is responding to a divine order. Stay with us as we uncover the true meaning behind this awakening and what it signals for our immediate future. The gate is awakening. In the documents we have analyzed, the term awakening is used to describe the current state of the Golden Gate, and it is a metaphor of profound weight. This awakening is not merely the physical movement of limestone molecules or the settling of ancient mortar. It represents the shattering of a 500-year prophetic sleep. For centuries, this portal has been a static monument to human efforts to forestall the divine. Sultan Suleiman's sealing of the gate, reinforced by the placement of a cemetery, was a physical attempt to block a spiritual reality. Yet, we are learning that man's sealing is merely a temporary measure against the unstoppable momentum of the Creator's timeline. The gate is currently preparing for its ultimate, sovereign purpose. This internal movement signifies a divine purification, a process where that which is old, false, and sealed by human fear is being forcibly moved aside to make way for the truth. It serves as a chilling reminder that, whether we are ready or not, the final seals of history are straining under a pressure that is not of this world. The phrase, "ready or not, the gate is waking," is a message not intended for the inanimate stones, but for the souls of every person observing these signs. It is a call to recognize that the boundary between what is written and what is happening has finally dissolved. The time for spiritual preparation is thinning with every millimeter the gate shifts. As the limestone groans and the seals buckle, we must move beyond academic curiosity and ask a much deeper question. Where do you stand in this grand design? The awakening of the gate is the awakening of a countdown that no human hand can reset. The long silence is breaking, and the countdown is no longer written on calendars, but in the very stones of Zion, preparing for the return. The phenomenon we are witnessing at the Golden Gate is far more than a geological anomaly or a historical curiosity. It is a profound testament to the intersection of the physical and the eternal. From the smallest hairline cracks appearing in the ancient mortar to the larger, inexplicable shifts of the massive limestone blocks,